Time to re-up YouTube. We're back with the season preview, and as you can see, we have the Orlando Magic coming in next. My last video, I flamed the New York Knicks for being garbage, so make sure you go and check that out if you haven't seen it. But as I said earlier, we're going to talk about what's going on in the O in Florida, because I gotta say, they are making some nice moves. The Magic have been a team that since they lost their superstar in Dwight Howard of the 2000s, they have lived in mediocrity. I mean, we're talking about an organization that over the last 5 to 6 years, their best player was Nikola Vucevic. And even when they've tried to tank, they have missed out on so much talent because of their draft placement. But never fear, luck was here on the Orlando Magic side. They finally lucked into that first overall pick and got Paolo Banchero, who, if you watch my winners and losers video, you know I am really high on. Now, some people may be saying, how could you have the Magic above teams that actually made additions like Jalen Brunson with the New York Knicks, or the Charlotte Hornets who have LaMelo Ball? And I'm here to tell you that the Magic are actually a lot better than you think they are. Don't let the last couple of years of them tanking and actually trying to lose games on purpose fool you into thinking that they're a pushover team that can't make some noise this season. I don't predict that they are going to make the playoffs, but it is not out of the realm of possibility for them to be a play-in team. For starters, let's look at what they specialized in last year, and the biggest thing is the defense. Some may look at their defensive numbers of being 20th in the league in opponents' points per game and 17th in defensive rating and think their defense was mediocre at best, but I actually think it was really good considering the circumstances. Markelle Fultz essentially missed the entire year outside of 18 games coming back from his ACL injury. Gary Harris, who's one of their better perimeter defenders, also only played 61 games, and Wendell Carter, their rim protector, only played 62 games in his own right. So them being middle of the pack in some of these defensive stats is pretty impressive in my personal opinion. Then you throw in the fact that they're going to be getting Jonathan Isaac back next season, and I don't expect him to come back to his depoy caliber self immediately, but if he's just 60 to 70% of what he used to be on that side of the ball, then that is a clear plus to their defensive side of the ball as a team. But speaking of team, let's look at the team, because I don't think people truly understand just how impactful some of these players are on the roster. As we mentioned earlier, Jonathan Isaac, he is coming back from an injury that kept him out for over a year. I'm not expecting too much from Isaac, especially on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively, just due to his length and size alone, he is going to be a huge plus. He can move his feet on the perimeter, he's very mobile there, a good shot blocker, can rack up steals, and is very good with help defense, rotations. I mean, the guy really is good at everything on that side of the ball. The only question is truly how much is that injury going to impact him when he comes back. But enough for Jonathan Isaac. Who I want to see coming back this year is the sophomore season of Franz Wagner. I honestly think Franz was slept on last year, and even though some people talked about him, he didn't get enough love, especially in the Rookie of the Year race. You had your Cade Cunninghams, your Scotty Barnes, and Evan Mobleys, but Franz was right there, averaging 15, 5, and 3 on 47, 35, and 86 shooting splits. He's capable of putting the ball on the floor, and he's actually a good defender. Throw in the fact that he can space the floor playing off the ball in catch and shoot situations, and I think he's a perfect fit for any roster. Though I will admit, I would like to see him use his size a little bit more. The guy's a 6'9", 6'10" small forward, and less than 25% of his shots come from the post. You gotta use that size to your advantage, Franz, and going forward, I would like to see him improve on that. But speaking of players that I like to see improve, that brings me to Mo Bamba. Now, when he was initially taken with the 5th overall pick in the draft a couple of years ago, I was so mad that he went to the Magic of all teams, who already had Vucevic at his own position, bruh. And for a while, I was scared that Bamba was gonna be out the league, but last year he turned it up. You may look at his numbers of 10 points, 8 rebounds, and be like, he can do better. But the two things about him that do stand out to me is, one, his shot blocking. He's a nice rim protector because of his length, but also his improved three-point shooting. Last year, you may say it was a fluke, but he shot 38% from 3 on 4 attempts a game. But if you follow Mo Bamba on social media or you saw him in college, he always had the potential to become a decent floor spacer. But because the Magic were in full-on tank mode last year, he got that opportunity and he showed up. So next year, I expect him to be very impactful in that front court rotation, whether he's a starter or not. But speaking of guys not starting, Chuma Okeke, shout out to him also, because he's a very good defensive player, even though offensively he's kind of mid. And when when I say mid, I'm kind of being nice there, but his defensive contributions is truly all they need from him off the bench. They already have their shot creators and scorers offensively. All Okiki has to do is be the defensive energy that he's always been. And speaking of defensive energy, it's tough to see Gary Harris go out with that meniscus injury, but depending on the return of his injury, if he can come back early in the season or midway, I definitely think he can be a good contributor for this team, just like he was last year. Last season, he had one of the better three-point shooting years of his career ever since his earlier years in Denver, and throwing the fact that just like Okiki, he's a very good perimeter defensive player, I definitely think he can be a huge boost towards this team. But now that we've discussed some of those bench players and the role guys on the team, let's get into some of the prime time players. For starters, when you look at their guard rotation, it's pretty deep, but it's going to be interesting to see how they manage some of those point guards. First, you got a guy like Cole Anthony, who I think would be perfect in the 6-man role. He doesn't have too much of a presence on the defensive side of the ball outside of his rebounding, and he's too inconsistent on the offensive side for him to be a full-time starter. He's a great energy guy and spark plug off the bench as a scorer, and I definitely think a 6-man role is perfect for that kind of player. Then you look at Jalen Suggs, who yes is coming off of a rocky rookie season, but I do believe he will play better. There's just no way he's going to be that bad going forward. He has promise on the defensive side of the ball. He has a high basketball IQ. He doesn't do too much, and I think if he can just be a decent offensive player, hell, they can run some lineups with him and Markelle Fultz as starters in the backcourt together. And speaking of Markelle Fultz, let's talk about him for a second. Markelle, in the 18 games he played last year, was coming off of an ACL tear that he suffered the year prior, and I know ACL injuries are no joke, but it isn't the death blow that it used to be back in the day to a player's career. Fultz is a really good defensive player while offensively being a nice passer and decision maker, and though he isn't a great floor spacer, I believe that just off of his defense and passing alone, he deserves to be in the starting lineup no matter what. But now let's transition from their guards to the front court. For starters, Bol, I don't care about him. I know people say he doesn't have much of an opportunity in the league, but at a certain point we got to give up on this guy. He's never going to be that star player that people think he's going to be. But one guy that can be a star player is Wendell Carter Jr. Now, me as a Bulls fan, I miss Wendell. Wendell, if you're out there and you ever hear this, please come back to us. I hate Vucevic, bruh. Wendell has grown so much from his Chicago Bulls years that it is insane. Last year, he averaged 15 points a game, nearly 11 rebounds and a block, shooting 53% from the field. From 3, he also shot around 33% on just short of 4 attempts. And yes, that is below league average, but that is something that he can add onto his game to improve on because it was a career high for him. If he can up that 3-point shooting to around 35-36%, you have a legit stretch 5 on your team. Though in the fact that in the paint, he's actually a very good post scorer. And though it's not too much volume in the mid-range, he shot 49% last season. I truly do believe as an offensive player, he's very underrated. Some people are going to look at the points per game and the volume of his scoring and think he's not a very good offensive player, that he's mid, but no, trust me, he's actually a really skilled scorer. And defensively, he's going to give you effort and be very good on that end as well. The blocks may not show it, but he's actually a very good rim protector. He holds it down in the post, and on the boards, he can give you a double-double anytime he wants. Another thing about Wendell that I find pretty underrated is his passing, especially in the short roll situations. He's very effective in the pick and roll, not only as a roll man to score, but as a passer as well. And because they have some solid off-ball players in the front court, I should add, like Franz Wagner or Mo Bamba, he can find them off of a cut, spotting up in the corner, in the dunker spot, wherever they need be. And I think throwing in Paolo in the mix is going to highlight his playmaking to an even higher degree. Wendell really might be the most underrated player in the NBA, and I hope next year he shows up and shows out for the Magic the way I expect him to. But we can't talk about the Orlando Magic's front court, scratch that, we can't talk about the Orlando Magic team in general without bringing up their #1 overall pick, Paolo Banchero. Now, Paolo, in my opinion, I believe was the clear first overall pick. I mean, I like Jabari Smith's promise defensively, and y'all know I'm high on Chet, I talked about that before, but Paolo truly has the full package as a #1 overall pick. Pause. He has the size, standing at 6'9", also with the 7'1" wingspan, weighing over 250. I mean, the guy is already built like a tank coming into the NBA. It's insane. And throw in the skills he has offensively, being so polished at such a young age, it truly is a thing of beauty to his game. He can score in the post, back to the basket. He has a mid-range. His 3-point shot may not be the best, but he can knock those down as well. And as a passer, I truly do believe he's underrated. In college, there were these narratives about him not being that that great of a passer or playmaker, but I thought that was completely asinine. If you watched him in the regular season or in the tournament, you could clearly see that his passing and playmaking was on point for the most part, taking advantage of the attention the defense gave him and leveraging that scoring gravity into creating numerous high-value assists. Now, defensively is where a lot of the concerns lie for Paolo, and in my opinion, I don't even think he's that bad of a defender, to be real. I honestly think at worst he's going to be a neutral defender on this team, and with all the defensive pieces that they do have on this team, I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. I truly do believe if Paolo lives up to my expectations, there's a good chance that he's going to average 20 points a game right out the gate. That's how confident I am in his ability to translate his college skills to the pros. When you're literally built like LeBron with an offensive game that we haven't seen this polished coming into the league since Carmelo Anthony, there's just no way a guy like that is going to fail, in my opinion. And I think that a team like Orlando is truly the perfect fit for him. They have multiple defenders at every single position, guys like Markelle Fultz, Gary Harris, Chuma Okeke, Jonathan Isaac, Wendell Carter, Franz Wagner. Jalen Suggs has potential on the defensive side of the ball, coupled with other offensive scoring weapons like Wendell, Cole Anthony, and obviously Paolo. I don't see how they can't compete for a play-in opportunity. The team can defend and they have offensive weapons. They can get it done on both sides, and I'm not saying they're elite on both ends, but they're good enough to compete with teams like the Wizards and the Knicks. Come on now. So stay on the look for the Orlando Magic next season. I truly do believe they're gonna shock heads with how good they are in the regular season. That man Paolo, this is the beginning of an iconic career, mark my words. But this is your boy Young Mustard signing out. You guys let me know your opinions down below in the comment section if you agree or disagree with anything that I said. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. You guys stay safe and have a blessed day. Peace.